tonight's really about is giving you an opportunity to learn some techniques, some strategies in helping your goals be more successful. Tonight's not so much about you just sitting there gathering information. It's really about taking some good notes, or write down anything, or ask a lot of questions, or anything that doesn't make sense. Just speak up. You don't have to raise your hand. Just say, "Hey doc, what's going on?" And we'll go from there. So let's dive into it. The first thing I want to go through is really set a background up to the whole thing, and the whole thing really comes to one exercise. And once you understand this exercise, it will make your life a lot easier. But before we get to that point, I really want to just give you a couple of backgrounds to help understand how we come to make decisions. Okay? And the first thing is that in every relationship, there's three components to a relationship. There is a dependent relationship. An example of a dependent relationship would be a mother and child, or a father and child. The child is completely dependent on that parent for his or her needs. Now, as people go on, they sometimes don't lose that dependency. There are people that you possibly know that always seem like you have to do everything for them. They haven't lost that dependency. Then people are often taught or encouraged to become independent. Okay, so meaning that you are self-standing, able to take care of yourself. And in a lot of cases, you do need to be independent. You need to be able to have independency and being able to take care of tasks at your own level, at your own pace, and with your own level of qualifications. However, there's another type of the relationship that's out there and often gets sold to us as a win-win-win sort of relationship, and that is the interdependent relationship. That's where one person, together with the help of other people, as either a network or as a small group, a cell group, a mastermind, together you actually work together to structure a win-win scenario. And we actually want to add another win to that sentence, so that it's win-win-win. And that is, you are going to get a result, the person who's helping you is getting a result, and most importantly, both of you or your actions are contributing to the helping of others. Basically, whenever we have a relationship and we're communicating with a person, and certainly when you are setting your own goals, you need to be thinking of 3 levels in everything that you say and do. Your actions really come down to 3 levels. How you feel about those actions, or what you believe about those actions, or about some of the steps you're taking. And then there's this person who the actions are directly affected. Okay, whether it's you've got a quarrel with your brother or sister, and you both have each side of the story. Whether or not it's between you and your boss will have certain actions that he expects, and you might have a different action. But then there's the outsider, that unbiased opinion, the person who has no real result coming towards them from your actions. They're completely separate from that action, that event or situation. And so we want to tag into some of this unbiased, some of this interdependent, and this win-win-win scenario in every action we take. Because we know that when we do, the level of success and the level of guaranteed success tends to climb steadily with that every single time. So the objective really depends on your own actions, and that is, what is it that you're trying to achieve with gaining this knowledge? And you don't have to answer this now, but you may need to be looking at where am I going, or do I want to stay out of a certain scenario and avoid it ever happening again? Is there a certain target that I need to meet to be satisfied in my life? Do I want to become a better communicator? Do I want to be more successful? Or, you could actually gain a lot of confidence from knowing these techniques. It certainly helped me be a lot more confident in my daily life. In the end, it's all about you. And that's where we need to start. We need to start with yourself. And you hear that all the time, okay? But essentially, there's a little word called fear. And fear holds us back a lot. But fear on its own, and if you read any of the books by either Jack Canfield, Anthony Robbins, or some of these guys, they'll all say the same thing. Fear is not actually a real thing. Now, Jason might know this answer. Do you know what the acronym FEAR stands for?
No.
Okay. Fear basically stands for either one of two things: fantasized experiences appearing real, or fabricated emotions appearing real. And you got to look at what is fear. And fear is really being afraid of something or a consequence. Because everything we do is scaled into what's the best that could happen for me and what's the worst that could happen for me. And too often, as long as it's somewhere in the middle, and hopefully somewhere towards the better side of what can happen to me, we will actually take action. A lot of us only think about what's the worst that can happen and let fear actually consume our every single day lives. And I want you to think about fear this way. Some of you might have gone up to an employer and asked for a raise. Some of you might have checked into a hotel and would have liked to get an upgrade. Some of you might have had to ask someone out on a first date. You might have had to take an action in which fear has held you back. And fear literally then is that it's an emotional response. Because if you want to get a hotel upgrade and you go to the front desk, can I have a hotel upgrade? The worst thing that could happen is that they would say, no. There's literally nothing else they could say. But we often say, oh, if I ask that, they might get angry, or they might throw it back in my face, or so forth. But essentially the worst thing that could happen is no. And most of the time, every action that you take is because you want something. You want something better. And so what I want to know from you really is that if you want something better and you're taking that action, you have to start somewhere. And at that point where you're starting, you don't actually have the very thing you're desiring through the action that you need to take. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. So let's say I do go for, I like the hotel upgrade because we often stay at places and we're often like, oh, I don't know. We don't want to ask for that upgrade. But let's say you walk to the hotel front counter. At the moment, you've paid for the basic room level. Now, you know the hotel's got a lot nicer rooms and that you probably know some of those are vacant at the moment. And you probably even get jealous of some of the people that always get the upgrades and so forth. And you're just hoping that by the time you reach to the front desk, they're going to magically say, hey, we're going to upgrade you today. Now, that could happen, but the likelihood is very low. So, at the point when I walk through the front door, at this point, all I've got is what? The basic room type. And I walk to the front desk and I want to ask for the upgrade. Now, if I ask and they say no, what position am I in? Am I worse off? Better off? Same. Exactly. The exact same. So the worst consequence is that I got a no and I was in the same position. If you go to a boss and you ask for a raise, there's the potential that when you ask for a raise that you get met with laughter. Okay? You get met with maybe hostility. But in the end, when you ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? Most of the time is you probably won't get fired. And if there is a real consequence in you getting fired, then by just tweaking the way you ask, you can often change these little things as well. Because if you go in to ask for a raise, do you have a raise now? No. You ask the question, is there then at least a chance you get a raise? There's a 50-50 chance you get a raise. But if your sole fear is then, look, he might get angry or he might fire me, well then you've thought about it and then re-ask the question a different way. What would be the actions required for me to receive a raise? Now that's a very open-ended question. And still he might say, oh, I hadn't thought about it. But you don't have a raise now? By thinking about the right questions, and that's where we're going to go to now. How do we structure the right questions? Or do we let our emotions always get the stronger of us? Okay? Fear basically is about blaming someone else all the time. Okay? They get the nice things, or someone else is preventing me from actions. Because in the end, just because something happened in the past doesn't mean those same actions have to take place in the present, or in the future for that matter. in the end, it's really about your own attitude in a lot of things that's going to determine whether or not you're going to get certain things, make at a certain level, or achieve certain goals that you have set for yourself.